I sit alone in my four-cornered room staring at candles.
This is your warning. I wouldn't watch this with younglings around. This one has cuss words and shit like that in it.
Ethan, what did you just say?
I think people enjoy more when you're losing.
100%.
Right?
100%.
You must know that, yeah.
100%.
I'm exact opposite. I like to see.
If I show a vlog where I just get smashed, like, people love it. They love it.
That's me. I put it on repeat.
Yeah, they love it.
Really?
Oh, yeah. 100%.
It's Saturday, December 8th. It's early, and I'm making a vlog. What more is there to really say?
I sit alone in my four-cornered room, staring at candles. All that shit is on. Let me drop some shit like this here, real smooth.
Oh, what a session this one turns out to be. Although it started from pretty meager beginnings. We were 3 and 4 handed for a while, and I was in a mood from the start. Hence, the 3-bet with ace-6 of hearts that you're currently witnessing. When the flop comes as 7 with 2 kings, one of them being a heart, and our opponent checks, I continue with a small c-bet and take this one down. It's not much, but winning these small ones definitely helps build a cushion to fall back on for what may happen later. I play.
Hey everyone, we have queens.
You again. I find it hard to believe that our queen is still sick, Ethan.
Do I look like a person that wishes to argue over the validity of an ailment to you? As I was saying, the mini blind limps along, and we raise the bet to $40 holding 2 queens, and he calls.
Just 2 queens?
Yeah, your description is strange.
We like it when the queen uses inappropriate racial quips in a public setting to make us feel awkward, like 2 strong black queens or 2 Nubian female sovereigns.
Saying 2 queens just doesn't have the same panache.
I quit. The interrupting, the talking back. You lot aren't very demure. I'm demure.
At night I can't sleep, I toss and turn, candlesticks in the dark, visions of bodies being burned. 4 walls just staring at a nigga. I'm paranoid, sleeping with my finger on the trigger. My mother's
Playing semi-decently and running well is a profitable combination, and at this point in the session, I was in that pocket. My standard open to $30 on the button with King-9 of hearts gets called by the big blind here, and we see the flop heads up. Queen-9-4 with 2 diamonds. The big blind checks, and holding middle pair on a board that doesn't really suit going for 3 streets, sees me check this back. The turn 3 of hearts changes nothing on my end, and it appears as if it changes nothing on his end either. He checks again. I feel like I should probably get some value for my middle pair now and toss $30 into the pot. He calls. The river king of diamonds is interesting. First and foremost, it completes both the front door flush and a flopped open-ended straight draw. However, I think this player would just lead with any of those made hands, as he's not the type to check, because what if I check it back? Armed with this assumption, my 2 pair is good. I bet $80 for value, and he tanks for 40 seconds. I thought that maybe a check raise was coming my way until he tosses out 1 black chip for a call. I table 2 pair, and his hand finds the muck.
mother's always stressing I ain't living right, but I ain't going out without a fight. See, every time my eyes close, I start sweating and blood starts coming out my nose.
Around 9 a.m., my friend Breno joins the table to my right. As he leans on the aggressive side, that, I think, is probably the best place for him.
So somebody watching the eye, but I know who it is, so I'm I'm watching my back. I can see him when I'm deep in the covers. When I awake, I don't see the motherfucker. He owns a black hat like I own, a black suit and a cane like my own. Some might say take a chill beat, but fuck that shit. There's a nigga trying to kill me. I pop it in the clip when the wind blows every 20 seconds.
20 minutes later, the 4-seat, the low jack, opens with a $40 bet. He hadn't played many hands, almost none, so looking down at pocket kings on the big blind gave me a warm feeling inside. We might play a big one here. He opened big, so I 3-bet big. I make it $160 and he calls. I can't ask for a more benign flop in this situation than the one we receive. 7-4-4 rainbow. My goal now is just to stack him when he has pocket jacks. I lead for $130, but get no satisfaction. Cutoff opens to $40. The small blind calls, and from the big blind, I'm going nowhere with pocket eights. 3 of us. 6 jack 4 rainbow. No one seems overly interested in this flop. It checks around. It's likely that I have the best hand. The turn 8 of hearts turns likely into extremely likely. And the small blind leads for $100 on the straight completing card. I call, and the cutoff folds. The river 9 of hearts brings in the backdoor flush in another straight draw, but the small blind checks. It's highly unlikely he would do that with either made draw, and I think my hand is worth additional monies. I tank for a bit and slide $220 into the pot, and after some pondering, I get the call I was hoping for, table my hand, and it's good. The straddle is on in this next one, and I stare down at pocket jacks again. This time from the under the gun 2 spot. I open to $50. The button calls and the straddler calls, so more 3-way action. 3-3-4 with 2 spades. First act checks, and I continue for another $50, which sheds the button, but the 1 seat hangs in there. He checks again when the 6 of diamonds shows up on the turn. This board isn't really going in a direction I want it versus a player that is very capable of just blasting off with both made hands and draws. I slide this hand into a check back. The river 10 should be a big nothing. The straddler now leads for very small, $40. I know that he has a lot of hands in this spot, and not many of those can really best jacks. Again, my hand is probably worth more. I raise to $200, and that ends this one. The table was starting to liven up a bit now, and a few hands later, me and Bruno get into another one. And this one he opens to $30 on the button, which could be any 2 cards. And thus, I raise to $140 holding king, queen offsuit from the small blind. He calls. 9-6-3 with 2 clubs. Honestly, I miss a bet here, and this flop checks through. The turn brings a jack of spades, and now with 2 overs and a gut shot, I continue for $150. Again, I get called. I brick it all when the 5 of spades appears as our last community card. My only hope now is to try to get him to fold some ace highs. I gather and deploy $260 in this effort. It doesn't work. He calls and shows me ace jack.
I'm popping in the clip when the wind blows. Every 20 seconds got me peeping out my window. Investigating the joint for traps. Checking my telephone for taps. I'm staring at the woman on the corner. It's fucked up when your mind's playing tricks on you. I make big money. I drive big cars. Everybody knows me like I'm a movie star. But late at night, something ain't right. I feel I'm being tailed by the same sucker's headlights. Ooh, if it's that fool that I ran off the block, Or is it that nigga last week that I shot? Or is it the one I beat for $5,000? Thought he had cane, but it was gold medal flour. Reached under my seat, grabbed my papa for the suckers. Ain't no use to me lying, I was scared than a motherfucker. Pull up the left into Popeyes and bailed out quick. If it's going down, let's get this shit over with. Here they come just like I figured. I got my hand on the motherfucking trigger, but what I saw make your ass start giggling. 3 black crippled and crazy senior citizens. I live by the swamp, I take my boys everywhere I go because I'm paranoid. I keep looking over my shoulder and peeping around corners. My mind is playing tricks on me. Day by day it's more impossible to cope. I feel like I'm the one that's doing dope. Can't keep a steady hand because I'm nervous. Every Sunday morning I'm in service, praying for forgiveness and trying to find an exit out of business. I know the Lord is looking at me, but yet and still it's hard for me to feel happy. I often drift when I drive, having fatal thoughts of suicide. Bang it, get it over with, and then I'm worry free, but that's bullshit. I got a little boy to look after, and if I die then my child will be a bastard. I had a woman down with me, but to me it seemed like she was down to get me. She helped me out in this shit, but to me she was just a...
So, we're here in the spot, and today my table's just kind of meh. I got Breno on my right, which is probably the best place for him to be. So I did build up a small stack, and then gave some of it away with King Queen offsuit with the Queen of Spades. Looking back, I should have just led the flop. And my river sizing maybe could have been a little bit bigger. I was just kind of trying to make a 9 indifferent. Called me with ace jack. Don't think he's ever folding a jack, so that's fine. Got a set. I've had kings, I've had queens, I've had jacks a bunch of times. I'm up, so that's good. Being up is good, but overall it's just kind of, we're here. I did see one thing interesting today. There is a 1-3 game running in there where 7 out of the 8 seats are women. I guess that's a good sign for women in poker, right? 7 out of the 8 seats? I don't think I've ever seen that before. Other than that, we're just kind of hanging in here. We're going to get back in there, play a couple more hours, and try to turn this thing into a movie. All right.
Okay, back from the mid-session update, and I'm feeling pretty good about how things are going and the vibe at this table. That will change soon enough. In this, a late position player limps for $10, and I raise it up to $50 from the small blind with Queen Jack of Diamonds. The big blind, whom I don't know, and is relatively new to the table, calls my raise and the late position player folds. Heads up. Queen 9-10 with 2 clubs. Now this is a flop I can sink my teeth into. Top pair and a straight draw in essentially a blind versus blind situation. It doesn't get much better. I continue for $60 and get quickly raised to $140. A pretty small raise. Damn near a min raise. Bet 3-betting here might be a bit ambitious, so I just call. The turn King of Clubs falls, completing my straight, but also completing the front door flush. A quick check by me is snap followed by a quick check from the big blind. The river pairs the king. Had I paused for a moment to think, which I didn't, I probably would have come to the conclusion that the best play by me here would be to bet and likely fold to a raise. The unpaused version of me, however, checks. The big blind now snap fires $300 into the pot, which isn't even a full-sized pot bet. There's a good chance we could just be chopping this pot. Maybe? Hopefully? I have a decent hand, but I don't get the feeling that he's bluffing. Could I be running into a full house? We're about to find out because I'm not folding. I call the large river bet, and the big blind quickly teaches me how Jack 4 of clubs works.
But to me, she was just another bitch. Now she's back with her mother. Now I'm realizing that I love her. Now I'm feeling lonely. My mind is playing tricks on me.
It's your iPhone?
30. Right, 100.
Never been so scared in my life, you know? I've never been so scared.
Never been so what?
Scared.
Scared?
He 3-bet me.
Yeah. Okay.
Sam, 2-5.
So fucked up. Yeah. I get on the program?
260.
This year, Halloween fell on a weekend. Be a ghetto for the trick or treat. Robbing little kids for bags till the law man got behind.
Some days I show up at the casino and I'm just in a mood. An aggressive mood. In a I'm not going to deal with your bullshit mood. In a you'll respect my authority type mood. I'm in all those moods today. The straddle is on and I open to $50 from the button with King 10 offsuit. The straddle calls. Ace 6-3 rainbow. My board. He checks and I continue for $80, repping a range that should have more big aces than he has from the big blind because most players 3-bet those big aces pre-flop versus the button. He's a non-believer. He calls. The turn pairs my 10 and puts a backdoor flush on the board. He checks. I check this back. The river brings the queen of clubs, and not only does he lead for $60, which is tiny, but he stands up like he has somewhere to go. Why are you standing up? I don't like that. It's making me feel some type of way.
You gonna do this? Okay, fine. That's all I needed. That's all I needed for him to do that, and it became personal with me.
Here, catch this raise. I make it $300. Sit your ass back down. Still standing, he thinks about this for a few seconds, then folds, and sits back down. Like I said earlier, the table was starting to liven up, so in this one, when the under the gun player limps and the cutoff makes it $40, to which the button calls, and I'm holding pocket kings in the small blind, I know fireworks are imminent, because any raise from me here is going to look like I'm stealing. I make it $200. For a second, I think that my take was wrong as both the under the gun player and the cutoff fold. But the button doesn't let me down. He calls and requests that we keep this pot small.
Let's play small pot, okay? No, don't go crazy.
I won't go crazy on you.
6-5-5 with 2 hearts. Not the best flop for my hand versus a twice defending button. I slip into defensive mode 200 plus big blinds deep. I check. He bets $80. I make an easy call holding this hand. The turn brings a 4 of clubs and this is getting dangerous. I check again and now the big sizes come out. He fires $400.
What happened to the small pot idea?
It's in his mind. It's okay. I'll not talk.
You don't like the small pot idea? All right.
I call. I'm praying to the poker gods to bring a river that doesn't connect with this board. No 3s, no hearts, no 8s, nothing like that. The river ace of clubs? Well, I didn't include that in my please no God list. I check and this one will get tricky if another big bet comes my way. But the button checks it back.
Good.
I table my kings, and when he tables 9-7 of hearts, I realize that the poker gods were listening to me because I indeed faded a lot of cards on turn and river to win this one.
Oh, 7 hearts.
Oh, shit. Oh.
I'm not bluffing any river when you call for it.
9-7 off, or 9-7 hearts, huh? 9-7 hearts. That's what we're doing. So you're trying to hurt me.
No, you were trying to hurt me. We're deep enough to do it. Listen. You're trying to hurt me.
I open here to $20 under the gun with 7-6 of hearts, and the cutoff 3-bets me to $80. Then the big blind calls before action gets back to me, and I slide in an additional $60, making this pot 3 ways. 7-4 deuce with 1 heart. The big blind checks, and flopping top pair and some backdoors is nice, but I'm not just going to lead out into the cutoff. I check too. The cutoff continues for $130, still holding a massive overpair advantage, and the big blind calls. I continue to tag along. The turn 8 of diamonds closes the door on one of my potential draws, and my flop top pair just got technically leapfrogged, although there shouldn't be many 8s in either of these guys' hands with how this action has played out so far. The big blind checks. I check, and the cutoff now checks. The river jack of hearts doesn't improve my hand at all, and I'm pretty happy when this river checks through as well. The big blind tables pocket 3s, I show my hand, the cutoff mucks, and my little 7 holds to take this one down. Remember that mood that I said that I was in? Well, it's a double-edged sword. In the very next hand following that 7-6 of hearts, the low jack opens to $30, and I find a 3-bet from the big blind holding 10-9 of clubs. While theoretically, this is an approved play, but versus this player with a low pre-flop fold percentage, it probably isn't the best spot. He calls, and we're heads up. 7-6 deuce with 2 diamonds. Pushing my overpair advantage, but really only holding a gut shot and 2 overcards, I continue for $140, and he calls. The turn 10 of hearts gives me top pair. I check, and he probes large.
650.
$650. I don't believe him. Like, at all. Plus, I still have this gut shot. I call the $650. The river queen of spades falls, and I check again. He now slides in his remaining $1,455. And since I've already made up my mind that he's full of it, and I'm in this mood, this obvious bluff gets snap called by me. The problem with this hand is he isn't bluffing, not in the least. He shows 9-8 of hearts for a turn straight, and you know those dunce caps the characters would wear in old cartoons? Yeah, I need to order one of those.
So we speeded up the pace, took a look back and he was right before our face. He'd be in for a spot, oh, no doubt. So I swung and hit the...
As a kid, my mom would always call me hard-headed. I didn't learn my lessons very quickly. It would have to be pounded into me before the light bulb would go off. I've added $1,000 after taking it on the chin 40 minutes earlier with 10-9 of clubs when I get into a hand that begins with the button opening to $30 and the small blind raising to $130. Internally, I have categorized the small blind as an overfolder, so holding king, queen of spades in the big blind and knowing that this is an often cold 4-bet candidate, I 4-bet to $350. Again, this move here, although theoretically sound, isn't necessary. The button folds and the small blind continues. 4-bet pots are fun. Here we go. Ace 9-5 with 1 spade. He checks and I continue for small. $70, as I would with almost my entire range here. He calls. If you think the idea is now to slow down on the turn, well, it's not. The deuce of spades giving me a flush draw makes my intended line even easier. He checks again and I size up now, $250, trying to set up stacks for a clean river shove. Again, he calls. The river jack of clubs is a disappointment. It doesn't bring in my flush, or even give me a pair, But actually making a hand, although nice, was never the intention of this line I'm taking. He checks again. I now have two options. I can check it back and lose, or I can shove and really put almost all his hands to the test. Even if he had ace-queen here, he'd be in the blender.
You should get to the point where anyone else would quit, and you're not gonna stop there. No, what are you waiting for? Do it! Just do it! Yes, you can! Just do it!
I move all in and don't get snap called. That's good. He tanks for a bit and eventually puts in a stack representing a call. I turn over my failed bluff and he turns over pocket nines for a flopped middle set, which is extremely unlucky for me, because if he's tanking with middle set there, then I likely would have gotten every other hand in his range to fold. I guess that's a little solace.
He was going down with nigga, but this wasn't no ordinary nigga. He stood about 6 or 7 feet. Now that's the nigga I be seeing in my sleep. So we triple teamed on him, dropping them motherfucking bees on him. The more I swung, the more blood flew. Then he disappeared and my boys disappeared too. Then I felt just like a fiend. It wasn't even close to Halloween. It was dark as fuck on the streets. My hands were all bloody from punching on the concrete. Goddamn, homie, my mind is playing tricks on me.
Sometimes in poker, things don't work the way they are supposed to. Lost a big pot with 10-9 suited, thank you. Then lost a gigantic one with a king-queen suited shove. And we're down $3,000. That's just how it is. That's just how it goes sometimes. They're all not winners. So I will say this as I head out of here. If you like the vlogs, leave me a comment. I will probably respond, and I'll catch you next time. Bye.
God damn, homie. My mind is playing tricks on me.